everyone. Welcome back, and I'm Esther from NFTCON. And tonight we have a really nice treat, a great fireside chat. And this time it's all about luxury fashion and NFTs. If you've been paying attention to the news recently, there was a historical auction with NFTs from Dolce & Gabbana, and they generated nearly $5.7 million worth of ETH. So tonight we have Shashi of UNXD and Kaspar of Red DAO. First, let's get Shashi and Megan to introduce themselves. Shashi, would you like to start? Oh, Shashi, hold on. You're on mute.
The most auspicious start. There we go. So I'm Shashi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of UNXD. We are a curated marketplace for digital luxury and culture, and the team behind Dolce & Gabbana's debut NFT drop.
Hi, I'm Kaspar. I'm a crypto investor since mid-2012 and a long time proponent of digital fashion NFTs. So I'm very excited to be talking on this panel and sharing what we're doing at Red DAO.
Yeah, so welcome. It's very exciting. I would like to start by congratulating Shashi on the success of your first NFT sale with Dolce & Gabbana. Was it everything you expected it to be?
Thank you. Yeah, from our part, we were really thrilled with the outcome of this first drop, which to us represented a really historic moment for the ecosystem, not just for NFTs, but also for fashion and the future of culture overall. I think we didn't set out with these really grandiose ambitions. I think we really just wanted to infuse what we saw as special from the fashion world with what we saw as special with NFTs, and ultimately try to blend the physical with the metaphysical. I think we managed to achieve that in a very authentic way, and ultimately we're very humbled by the response we received from the community. And I'd like to think it's because we went about this project in the right way and really tried to focus on capturing the magic of the physical world and bringing the authenticity of NFTs and the mediation of culture on chain to it. I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit more later.
Sure. How did you first get involved in luxury brands and the fashion world?
So 12 years ago, I co-founded a company called Nervora, and we've been a very close strategic partner of a company called Condé Nast, basically since our inception. Condé Nast is the parent of brands like Vogue, Vanity Fair, GQ, Wired, and The New Yorker. And in 2012, we launched their first publication in the Middle East, which was a fashion publication called Style.com. So I've been very deeply involved in the fashion world for almost a decade now. Then in 2016, I became the youngest publisher in the history of Vogue when we launched Vogue in the Middle East. And over the last 5 years, we've turned Vogue Arabia into one of the largest editions of that brand globally. In 2017, we launched Vogue Man. In 2020, we launched Vogue Living, which is an art and design publication. And in 2019, rewind 1 year, we launched Wired in the Middle East as well. And so in many ways, what we're trying to do in the NFT space really sits at the domain intersection of these two brands, Vogue from a fashion, luxury, culture, and design perspective, and Wired from a technology and internet culture perspective. But specifically as it relates to fashion and luxury fashion, it's been now a decade that I've been very deeply involved in that community.
Oh, that's great. And Megan, why fashion NFTs? How did Red DAO become to be involved?
So fashion NFTs, unlike most NFTs, provide a different type of use case. So a wearability. So if you can see, I'm actually not wearing these earrings. And you can do different things with your NFTs. And wear different things in augmented reality, virtual reality, like different worlds, and also like right now where I'm changing what I'm wearing, which could ultimately just be NFTs. So this could be an NFT item that's bought, sold, and traded, but it has a real use case. So fashion NFTs, we think, will disrupt the fashion industry by creating an entirely new business model. And it takes fashion and turns it into sort of the biggest, in my opinion, ESG investment, because now you have this dynamic artifact that you can wear and you don't have to have it mass produced or manufactured from Earth's material, right? This is all just digital in a virtual world. So this is a game changer for major fashion brands. And I think ultimately all consumer products that will, as we move from the world of like heads down looking at our phones to heads up in virtual or augmented reality eyewear.
And also, could you share a little bit about how Red DAO was created?
Yeah, of course. So Red DAO was incubated by Flamingo, and DAOs essentially are where people come together and pool their capital in order to deploy the capital in something that they believe in. So Red DAO is a fashion NFT specific DAO, but not just NFTs. I shouldn't say it will also be putting towards marketplaces like UNXD, which are great because they help proliferate the ecosystem. But all of the decisions get made by voting. So it's not like a fund. It's more like a vehicle where everyone votes according to how much capital they've contributed to the overall entity.
Okay, so not just NFTs, but maybe even just digital fashion across the board. And okay,
everything is crypto blockchain based. So our sort of theory and thesis is that if you have digital fashion, it has to be on a blockchain because it can't be monetized otherwise. It could be inside of a centralized platform, maybe like Fortnite or Roblox, but there again, it's not interoperable. So you really want something that's living on a blockchain, uses cryptocurrency, and for the purpose of where we're going in the next 10 years, decentralized metaverse platforms for interoperability purposes for the items.
Okay, thank you. And then Shashi, how or why did you decide to create UNXD? And what was your thinking or mission for creating UNXD?
So I've been personally investing in the crypto space since 2015, not quite as long as Megan, but fairly early for the community, I guess. And so I saw an opportunity to really blend what I'd been interested in personally with what our company had been working on professionally for over a decade. But I think really the biggest difference between what we're trying to do and what we think everyone else is trying to do is that we started with a view of ourselves as culture creators and curators first that just so happened to be enabled by technology rather than a tech platform or a tech business that was trying to get into the business of culture. And this might sound like a simple switch in the order in which I'm framing things, but I think it's actually a much deeper, more fundamental viewpoint that we have of ourselves, backed by over a decade of creating culture and content and experiences ourselves in both the real world and the digital world. And just one small data point, the work that we've done for Vogue over the last 5 years has been seen by almost 350 million people around the world now. We've been covered by every major press outlet on the planet. We've been on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. And I think all of these are little slices of culture that inform our worldview. It really is the lens through which we look at the world. And so when we started on this project with a brand like Dolce & Gabbana, it wasn't just a random sort of divergent path that we took, but based on a deep domain understanding of culture overall and luxury fashion and how that works in both the physical and the digital world, and also just deep relationships with brands like that, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, because my next question is, how did this collection Dolce & Gabbana become to be? And can you tell us more about this collaboration?
Sure. So we approached them directly. It was our idea to get into the space with them. It's going to sound really absurd, but this entire project was the result of one single conversation that I had with the brand back in April. And the next day, the presentation that I put together was translated into Italian, delivered to the company's board of directors, and then that evening was personally approved by Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana themselves. And I think it's really for two reasons why they got started. I have to really quick sidebar and say I have nothing but admiration for that organization and their willingness to dive into an area that has not traditionally been the domain of fashion or luxury. Technology is really not where that industry focuses. But I think it's for two reasons. First, Dolce & Gabbana as an organization is one of the only luxury fashion brands that today is still run by its original founders. And I think that that makes a really big difference. Everything that that organization does is still the direct vision and the direct application of these two gentlemen. And they're incredibly hands-on with every aspect of the organization. But secondly, I think it's really about context and the way in which we presented the opportunity, and really driven by what our belief is. And the first thing that I told the brand was that if you take away nothing else from this conversation, know that the real story around NFTs has very little to do about technology. It's a story about culture. It's a story about storytelling. It's about consumer experience, and to an extent, it's about commerce. It just happens to be mediated by a new form of technology. And that, I think, was the light bulb moment for the brand. They understood how this actually represents the intersection of everything that the brand has stood for almost 40 years. The same way that as an organization, Dolce & Gabbana uses Instagram, but doesn't really need to know about the technology that's under the hood. They know that Instagram is a great platform for visual storytelling and consumer engagement, and just happens to be mediated by technology. So I think the context of that really mattered. And as soon as they understood that, they were ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, and then so with the NFTs, Megan, why did Red DAO choose Dolce & Gabbana?
Well, this was the very first sort of iconic brand NFT launch ever in history. So this was an ideal time for Red DAO to make its first inaugural sort of purchases. And yeah, we haven't seen anything like this yet. I think this is just the beginning, where brands will sort of awaken to the possibilities that they can just continue creating one-of-a-kind pieces in digital, and maybe mix a physical part as well as an experiential, and also maybe an exclusivity piece as well. Whereas if you buy an item, perhaps you have access or the ability to have access to buy something in the future because you're a member or you know, a holder of the items from that brand.
I mean, Shashi, could you tell us more in detail about this gorgeous collezione Genesi, and how, you know, how it's both digital and physical?
Mm-hmm. The origins of this collection itself, I think, are really interesting. I think at the outset, one thing that we were really humbled by is that not only was this project personally approved by Domenico Dolce and Stefano Gabbana, they actually personally designed this collection, which is not really the most common experience. For us, it was really inspiring to work with them directly in creating this collection. And it started with a few key goals. I think first and foremost, we really had a mandate for us and for Dolce & Gabbana that in entering the space, it had to be a deep commitment to the space overall, and not just a standalone project or a pilot program, but really something that signified that the brand was making an intentional shift into the NFT space. Secondly, we really sought to find a way to create a very authentic representation of the brand in the NFT space, whether it was in the physical world or the metaverse or both. And so that was really the outset of it, is linking back to those two fundamental principles. Then we started with a very specific focus on couture, and couture within the fashion industry represents the pinnacle. These are the most exquisite pieces that fashion brands or luxury brands make. They are typically entirely handmade. They are not produced by machines. They're actually produced by hand. They're not based on computer models or simulations, but actually they start on paper. And perhaps most interestingly, couture items typically are only ever made once. So even just the fundamental premise of couture is non-fungibility, which we saw as a really nice parallel between the idea of an NFT as well. So then from a cultural perspective, we also really wanted to find what the cultural narrative was behind this collection. And for Dolce & Gabbana as a brand, every collection that they produce is inspired by a different location within the country of Italy, to which they have a great deal of love and gratitude. And every collection they produce is kind of this ongoing love letter that they're writing to the country of Italy. So this specific collection was inspired by Venice. And Venice, at one point, was the most important cultural and commercial center on Earth. It's actually where Marco Polo sailed from. And so we actually presented this collection during the Brands Couture event, which is a 3-day event that took place in Venice at the end of August. There's actually a member of Red DAO that joined us in person, Akira Reloaded. So quick shout out to him, because he was one of the first people to see the collection in person. But we really tried to infuse the magic and the spirit of the city of Venice with the magic of artistry and craftsmanship from Dolce & Gabbana as designers. And yeah, what makes the collection, I think, really special, as Megan mentioned, it's the first move by a brand with this kind of stature, this kind of heritage into the space. And the way in which we found authentic moments were by linking physical items to an aspect of the collection, but also creating certain items that were entirely digital. And wrapping it under this umbrella of trying to create a digital, physical, and experiential layer of utility for the entire collection. And I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more, but utility here is really important. Megan has showed off some examples of utility of these pieces. I think that's really where the industry is going to go. I love that piece. Utility is going to become an increasing aspect, or increasingly important aspect of what consumers demand with these pieces. I think we love JPEGs and the art of it, but I think there's a lot more that can be done with NFTs, and certainly in fashion being such an expressive medium and so linked to people's conception of identity, utility is just kind of intrinsically built into the space.
Sure. Megan, how did I mean, I just wanted to ask, did Red DAO bid on all the pieces, or were there specific pieces that you really wanted? Because I know that Red DAO has 3 pieces. Could you tell a little bit more about that?
Sure. So yeah, there were a few different pieces that we had decided on initially prior to the crown to vote on. One was the gold dress, I believe, and we didn't win that bid, but that was okay. So we focused on the jackets. So Red DAO has 2 jackets that are pure digital, not physical, and then the crown. So we had decided, we voted as a group, and the consensus decision was that we would bid on the crown. So we did, and the crown is like I said, the digital, so you could essentially wear it in some form of social media or on a stream like I am now, and then there's also the physical, and Dolce & Gabbana layered in an experiential piece too that's really cool.
Oh, could you tell us more about the experiential part of it?
So I think Shashi would probably be better fit to explain all of that and how it works. Sure.
Yeah, so there were 3 aspects overall to the experiential layer, which exists across all 9 of the pieces in the collection. The first is that all of these pieces actually serve as access tokens to Dolce & Gabbana's next couture event, and the physical pieces actually come with 2 years of access. And I say event because it's not just a typical show. The event in Venice was a 3-day event that included multiple shows, multiple dinners, multiple parties in some of the most historic locations in the world, including an opening night dinner that took place at the Doge Palace in Venice, which is this really, really spectacular location that most people can perhaps visit as tourists, but never have the experience of attending a private dinner in a place like this. So these couture events are magical. The one in Venice had 450 people, some of the most exclusive audiences in the world, and there's simply no way to get access to an event like this without a personal invitation from either Domenico Dolce or Stefano Gabbana. So this is the type of experience that we want to offer to collectors that came as part of this collection. Next year is actually going to be the 10th anniversary of Dolce & Gabbana's couture business, so I'm sure they'll pull out all the stops with this specific event. I don't even know where it's going to be, but it will be someplace in Italy, and surely someplace that's really historic. The second aspect of the experience is what we're seeing as kind of a physical real world flex. So we're actually going to host a 2-week exhibition of all 9 of the pieces in the collection at Dolce & Gabbana's flagship store in Milan, on one of the most historic streets in Milan, which is called Via Monte Napoleone, which is a little bit like Avenue Montaigne in Paris or Fifth Avenue in New York, but with a lot more history. So this is really an opportunity for everyone who were collectors as part of this drop to participate in a real world museum exhibit almost. And then in addition to that, all 9 of the pieces have the option of being exhibited in any Dolce & Gabbana store anywhere in the world. And so for Red DAO, if that happens to be in New York or Paris or London or Los Angeles or Tokyo or any one of the hundreds of stores that the brand has on the planet, again, it's an opportunity to bring this physicality to the pieces. And then the last part of it, which I think maybe I love even more, is that all 9 of the pieces actually serve as access tokens for a private tour of Dolce & Gabbana's atelier in Milan. And I've had the opportunity of doing this a couple of times myself. It is really a magical experience, surrounded by some of the world's most experienced artisans in their native environment, producing some of the world's most exquisite goods by hand. It is really just a special experience. And that's something that any one of these holders can redeem next time they're in Milan.
Yeah, well, if any of our, audience is in Milan, or, do check it out. Now I have some questions for Megan. Red DAO, if someone was interested in joining, how does that work?
So as of now, Red DAO is closed for membership. There were an initial set of people who were invited into the DAO, mostly industry experts and people that have been involved in the crypto and or fashion industries for quite some time, just so we could build a sort of pillar or a foundation of people who can provide their resources and expertise to make the DAO something really special. Later on, we may vote to allow more people to come in and participate and be holders of shares in the DAO.
Okay, and just curious, does Red DAO members or Red DAO have any favorite brands or fashion designers that they're into?
I guess Dolce & Gabbana, that's kind of given. But yeah, all, high-end designers and couture pieces are, again, a focal point, I think, for NFT fashion altogether, because with digital fashion, you can do many more things with it, and it becomes more dynamic and more fun and interesting. And again, there's bigger business models that will come out of using the NFT fashion. So brands that are doing really fun and exciting things around that, we're very much focused on.
Sure. Could you share with us some of these brands that we can pay attention to?
There's Iris Van Harpen, who did the dress for Grimes for the Met Ball this year. They're working on some really cool NFTs, so we're kind of looking at that.
Cool. And then, Shashi, could you give us a taste or share what sort of NFTs you're working on?
Mm-hmm. We actually made a point of announcing what's coming next for Dolce & Gabbana before the first drop, because we wanted to, again, publicly signal that this is part of an ongoing journey, starting with this Genesis collection. Even the name Genesis was specifically chosen to say that it's the first in a series of things that we're doing. So we're actually rolling out an entire NFT community called DG Family, which also the name here is a very intentional choice. I think one of the aspects of NFTs and crypto overall that has really driven the ecosystem forward is this very strong feeling of community. And within community, the closest knit form of community is family. Dolce & Gabbana is actually a family-owned company. Their official campaign hashtag for the last 5-6 years has also been DG Family for their existing collections, and they actually treat their clients as family. And I very much got an experience of this over the last several years of working with that brand. So this is something that we're actually going to roll out in November. We are going to be hosting an event during NFT NYC in New York. This will be a private event that we'll be revealing more about soon. And there we'll actually unveil the full roadmap of what's coming up with the brand. But the idea of giving people a little bit of a taste of what's coming next, even before the first drop, was to, with an analogy, I guess, kind of paint a little picture of what the neighborhood will look like before people chose to buy the house.
Oh, that's great. You'll be at NFT NYC, so everyone pay attention to what's going on while we're there. And Other than luxury and fashion brands, I know both of you have been in this space for a while now. Could you share with us what sort of NFTs or, what sort of things you're paying attention to outside of fashion? Megan?
Well, prior to fashion, I was involved with, we created or incubated a NFT specific blockchain called Wax. And that's mostly for consumer NFTs, low to medium dollar collectibles. So trading cards, MLB cards, there were a few different tops products that we launched. So I have quite a few of those NFTs, but ultimately I've had a passion for fashion and digital fashion NFTs, specifically because they have such an awesome use case. And I think the use case and usability will drive a ton of people, which disrupts the industry. So we're going to see, what happened with Web 2.0, music and entertainment. Web 3.0, blockchain and crypto will do this to the fashion industry and take off into the metaverse.
Yeah, so exciting. And Shashi?
Yeah, I would really echo what Megan is saying here. I think the same way that fashion brands came to Web 2, they came a little bit late, but now Web 2 and traditional e-commerce is part of an always-on movement for these brands. Web 3 is going to be the exact same thing for them. It will just be part of how they do business, not something that they view as like a marketing gimmick that they want to get into from time to time, but rather driven by very real use cases, an important part of how they see both their brand building objectives and their business building objectives. That will be driven by the consumer demand for it as well. And so there will be a series of brands that come in understanding that, and they come in early, hopefully, and then there will be ones that come in too late and realize that they're too late. So I think what we're hoping is that there will be more that come into the former category, and we're seeing that. I think this first drop really represented hopefully a little bit of an inflection point. I think it was a powerful signal to a lot of people that there's both a really big opportunity from a consumer and visibility and branding perspective, but also there's a real business here. And to the extent that you can align those two objectives, I think that's kind of the holy grail for a business. So that's what we see as the future here.
Oh, okay. And a final question. What do you think is the next big thing for NFTs? Maybe Megan first?
Well, I think it's going to be the hardware, right? So moving from the smartphone to a eyeglass wearable, because then we'll be able to actually use, just like I am with these NFTs, we'll be able to do it in real time and wear our augmented reality glasses and use digital items and NFTs live and do it while we're in person. So I think that ultimately will disrupt NFTs and sort of take the NFT space to the next level.
Yeah, very exciting. And Shashi?
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. I think the more seamless the usage of these things become, where you don't have to be sitting behind a desk looking at a laptop to actually experience these pieces, I think the better it will be for everyone. I think we also really deeply believe in this intersection of the digital and the physical worlds. I think that there are things that you can do in the physical world that you can't do in the digital world, and the physical world is better for that, and that should be embraced. And there are things that you can do in the metaverse that you can't do in the physical world, and the metaverse is better for that, and that should be embraced. But we think the most additive experience is actually trying to meaningfully connect both of these domains. And so I think that's where a lot of our focus is going to be over the coming months and years, is trying to create these very intentional collisions between the physical universe and the metaverse.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and for members of the audience who haven't seen the collection yet, Shashi, where would be the best place to see exactly what we are talking about, and how, it's that rendering for the digital pieces that really got me, the detail that I love. Where would they be able to see it for themselves?
Yeah, so the entire collection can be seen at UNXD.com. We are actually going to exhibit this collection in New York at the brand's flagship store on Fifth Avenue at the beginning of November during NFT NYC. So for people who want to see it in person, and I do have to say that the Doge crown that Red DAO purchased is absolutely exquisite in person. It is a breathtaking experience to just soak in this fantastic piece of sculptural art. People can come to the store in New York and see it as well.
Yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out at the New York store. And Megan, where do we find out more about Red DAO?
Red DAO has a Twitter, so it's just at Red DAO, and also a Discord where I believe a few channels are open to the public.
Okay. So thank you both so much for taking the time to join us at NFTCON today. I really hope to welcome you back in our future conferences.